All right, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the April edition of DIGFM. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve Romig. I am the Education Content Manager at Claris. I've been at Claris when Claris was called Claris the first time, so I've been around for quite a while. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all. It's nice to see some new faces, especially from all around the world. Today, we have a friend of the I was going to say friend of the podcast, but it's actually friend of the DIGFM, Tony White. He's going to be presenting. But before I hand it over to him, a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, out of a courtesy to Tony, I would recommend putting yourself on mute. And if you want to ask a question during tonight's presentation, a little WebEx tip for you all, you can hold down the space bar on your keyboard. And as long as you keep the space bar down, it unmutes you, so you can hold the spacebar down, ask your question, release the spacebar, and you'll be back on mute again. So that's a little tip. And then as we were talking about earlier, because Tony's got a ton of stuff on his screen right now, if you find that you can't see things very well, you can absolutely zoom in and out on your end by going to the view menu and using the zoom in and out controls there. And if you're on a mobile device, Vince was kind enough to point out that you can use the pinch and zoom to do that as well. So hopefully between the muting and the zooming, we're going to have a great session tonight. And with that, I will turn it over to Tony. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Steve. And also thank you, Eric, Vince, and Jay, and everyone for putting the show on and having me back, inviting me. This is my third time presenting at DIGFM. And it's going to be different content. I do want to recommend that if you haven't seen them already, the two previous presentations, have a look. I think there's some pretty good stuff there. From time to time, I'm going to, reference stuff that we covered it. I'm not going to repeat anything, but I may point back to some of the things that we've put together previously here. As far as today, my housekeeping note is I'm sometimes a little bit of a fast-talking New Yorker. Good thing we're being recorded, right? We're being recorded, yeah? Yeah, we heard the audio. Okay, good. So if you miss anything, it will be recorded. We've done it twice before and it worked, so I trust it'll work again. Today's presentation is, the title is A Visual Understanding of the FileMaker Platform. So I've got a lot of infographics, so I think a lot of people already know that one of the things that I like to do for myself and others is what's that? I just heard a little bit. All right, when I'm trying to wrap my head around a FileMaker topic, I typically, and it's a little complex, I'll typically do it by making an infographic, and then from time to time when they get spiffed up enough, or for a presentation like this, we'll put some of them out there. So the agenda that I have is I've got a lot of presentations. I've queued up as many as 25 or something like that. I'm kind of hoping we don't get through 25 because I want to focus on quality versus quantity. And I want, my goal is that this be interactive. A bit of a template, for each infographic. I'll give you what I call the nickel tour. What is it? Wow, there's a lot of stuff on the screen. What the heck is this? What are you trying to do here? A bit of a nickel tour through the graphic, and then open it up to comments, questions, and have a little bit of a conversation. And comments in line, not at the end of 2 hours, but just literally in line, so that we can point back to this content topic by topic. So with that all said, I got one up on the screen. Then I'm moving my chat window. I will from time to time look at the chat window. But let's start with this one. First off, as was mentioned, you can, if you happen to be watching this on a 13-inch laptop or a mobile device like an iPad, you can pinch in and pinch out. We did a little testing. Thanks for the help in the testing. And I've basically got an 8.5 by 11 infographic up on the screen in the maximum visibility that we worked out ahead of time. So hopefully this looks good and readable to people. And now I'm going to give you the walkthrough. So this is the first one. This is actually one of the prettier ones that we have done, pretty polished. We'll get a little scruffier as we go forward. But this one is one that we did. And I like to, when I'm doing a presentation that's technical, I like to kind of start off with like, why do I care? Why should I exert mental energy to understand what's on this diagram? The reason we did this is I was dusting off some code to do like a VREV on the picker code. Pickers to me are one of the bread and butter features, one of the most valuable features. Valueless are great. And that said, there's times when you're picking from a list of contacts, and maybe you got 5,000, 50,000 contacts in your database, and you want a pick list with some filters on top. Maybe you want to have a calendar picker. Maybe you want to have a time picker, a color picker, a custom picker that picks different status values, or a layout dialog, which is the predecessor of the card window. So I wanted to do the pickers, and I wanted to do them better than I'd done them before. I had some pretty decent code. The picker technology that we use was first mentioned in Advisor magazine by Scott Love, wrote an article. We should, by the way, just a little bit of a side topic. I wonder if we get copyright to that. There's some really good content in the FileMaker Advisor. I saw Chris on the, Chris is with us here today. And I wonder if someone has the ability to reach back and say, hey, can we just get open source to that library of really good content? Anyway, I saw this article on pickers, and more recently, there's Weet-Bix out of New Zealand did a blog post, and I think later on we'll drop it in the chat. And Carbon from Geist has a picker technology. And I'm not going to show any of that, but there's some references. What I am going to show is the analytical work that we did with this diagram to lay the groundwork for building the best possible user interface. So my goal, oh, and actually I got mouse possé here. My goal was to be able to have a button that I could click and a picker window would come up. And I wanted the picker window to be positioned very precisely, pixel perfect, to the right of the button. I didn't want it to be centered. I could have done that. That would have been easy. But I wanted to be positioned in a particular fashion, just to the right of the button. But if the button somehow got moved, and I would do that with an object name, and the get, it should be on the, there we go, on the bottom in this data viewer thing, the get layout attribute, wait, what's it called? Get layout object attribute. If I name a button, I can figure out the bounds using that function. And then I can, with my script, I can cause the picker to appear right next to the button. I think it's a really nice interface. Now the challenge, because I was going crazy with this, was that if my picker window couldn't fit on the right, I would move it to the left. I didn't want it to cover the button. So anyways, very complicated script, which I'm not going to show because that'd be like a presentation in and of itself. But this analytical work, and I just figure, might as well learn the platform. The more I know about the platform, the better the code I'm going to accidentally land on. So we took all the functions, I put them in a data viewer, took a screenshot, and put it onto OmniGraffle. And then I made a picker window. And I put it within a window. And I'm not sure I'm going to say all that much more other than the goal was to get all the functions that had to do with windowing and all the script steps that had to do with windowing. No, I didn't really care about script triggers because they didn't really come into play in terms of what I was trying to sort out. And then I've got a doc. And I will say, if anyone from FileMaker has got any spare time there, I know you're all busy, but if you want to give us a get doc size and get doc position, I will incorporate it into my code and make it a lot simpler. Because in order to position the window, I was kind of like feeling like a blind man, where I was like, hey, is this going to fit there? And the script would like sense where the doc was. Bit of a longer story there. So that's the nickel tour. I think it's a pretty decent diagram. And I found it useful, and I'm kind of hoping someone else does as well. Oh, one other thing. Go ahead. Yes, question.
Question real quick. So can you describe what some of the abbreviations are, LOA, FB, that kind of thing? And the other question
Yeah.
I have is with the picker. Did you write a script with the picker as a card window or as a new enhancement or not?
Okay, those were really good questions. I'm going to repeat them. First one, the abbreviations LOA stands for Layout Object Attribute. And it's color coded. I guess that's a pink. I'm not sure. It's kind of a pinkish color. And down in the lower right-hand corner, color coded, there's Layout Object Attribute. And, I abbreviate them just to kind of fit all this information, kind of tight for space. FB stands for Field Bounds. And that was really included more for well, actually, I don't know if that even comes into play, but that's field bounds. The layout object attribute is the one that we use more because we would take a button, which is give it an object name because it's a layout object. The button's a layout object, and then get the attributes, the bounds, and then feed that into the script. That was one question. And the other question was, card window. At the time that we did this, if you look at the upper right-hand corner, we did this in 2013, which predates the card windows, which showed up in 16. So we were essentially doing, oh gosh, people call them different things. Pop windows. Albert calls them flyaway windows. You could call them, we landed on calling the variable pop windows. So it's just essentially layout dialogues. Could be done with card windows, which we certainly use and like a lot. A little bit of a, either one is good depending on the use case, card windows and layout dialogues. So Vince, those were two questions. Did I miss any?
Thank you.
Okay, and then modal window, that's Sean says modal window. And the answer is yes, modal window. And the technique that we're using, basically it's a calling script. So we have a script that says, for instance, pick contact. And then it calls a central script, which is open contact picker window. Not its real name, but that's descriptive. Open contact picker window. And that script will go to a layout, pop a window, position it next to the button, and it will pause. And by virtue of it being paused, it will it will create a modal window. It'll be modal. And then there's a kicker button, which was described, if you have the Advisor magazine, you can look it up for historical memorabilia, or you can look at the blog post by Wheatbix, something about the word modal is in it. We'll drop it in the blog post at some, it'll be all over the place. So yeah, it's a modal, and then it's a kicker window that runs a resume that echoes back or returns the primary key or a JSON package. Anyway, it's a lot of code. It's like the way we did it is a ridiculous amount of code, which is I'm not gonna try and show it because I've got like 20 infographics to cover. So that was Sean's question. Eric saying we're gonna have a link. Ooh, Steve said, did we lose audio? Is it just me? Okay. And then a couple of pieces, just you. All right, so I think, sorry, Steve, a bunch of people have audio, so I'm going to press on. Before I press on to the next infographic, any other questions on this one? Maybe we covered it. Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Isn't there with Windows, you got to add like 17 pixels to the right side of one of these conditions to make it work? I forget what that was. But
that's a good lead in. I'll bring up the Windows thing. When you do, if I look at the data viewer, if we all look at the data viewer, oh, look at that. It highlights nice. On the lower right-hand corner, there is adjustments based on the status bar or the platform or the version of FileMaker. There's a lot of things that could change based on like I said, status bar, is the status bar showing or closed? I would say play with it. I mean, certainly this is a good starting point. If you're looking to spiff up your windowing in your solution, this will give you a good analytical foundation. You know, and everyone's going to write their code a little bit differently. And multiple monitors. Someone says multiple monitors. That's my cue to move on to the next one because, yeah, that's. I'm going to pass on that one. Okay, and now I'm going to hit the escape key. And this. Okay, so that was one. I'm going to try minimizing that. And just for the record, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because this is sort of thematically identical to what we just did. But I just want to show you that for completeness, we did indeed do the windows. And here's the disclaimer. We did this in 2014. And subsequent to that, I think it was FileMaker 12, maybe? FileMaker Incorporated, that was the name at the time. FileMaker, now known as Claris International, did change the windowing betwixt STI single window interface and multiple. And we didn't redo this because that's not the way we roll. We're always looking for new territory. And we got code that works on Windows, and we did not look back, but there's one for Windows. So that's that. Let me pick another one that's interesting. Let's see, which one? All right, while everyone's fresh, we'll do a complicated one. We'll do container fields. Okay, I hope everyone got a good night's sleep because this one, there's a lot going on here. So once again, I'll give you the nickel tour and then questions. And this we did in 2016. If you look on the upper right-hand corner, this was an infographic based on a developer presentation from what was at that time called DevCon 2013, now known as Claris Engage, coming to a virtual screen near you. And this was a presentation that was done by, I believe, the developer who built the feature. What feature? So as of FileMaker 12, I hope I got that right, the platform got some new functionality pertaining to managing container fields. Specifically, you see the little yellow starburst over here, which is new, which is what we use on all our infographics saying, hey, this is new. So as of 2016, it was brand new feature in FileMaker 12, secure storage and open storage. Prior to that, there were container fields, they did exist, and there were two methods for storing files, whether image or PDFs or whatnot, which file reference were embedded. Those were the two ways, and then it doubled, and there were four ways. So there was a lot of functionality that showed up at that point in time when they added these features. And Oleg, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Zaidman, did a awesome presentation about it. And it was, he had a terrific PDF. And so, once again, we're like, oh, this is this new functionality. We do a lot of container work in New York, a lot of visual people, a lot of digital asset management type situations. So we figured we better learn what the heck this new feature is and how to work with it. So once again, nickel tour. I'm not going to go too deep here because basically all people need for the most part is an overview, and then they can come back and look at the diagram, when the situation comes up. Not every project involves a lot of container fields, but when they do, it's good to know how things work. So there's base directory, and once again, where did my chat window go? Let me put that up. Hold on, I got to bring my chat window. I think my chat window disappeared when. Okay, good. All right, I'm not behind on chat. All right, so there's the four things. I'm looking for a particular little visualization. You can kind of change things. He did. Oh, here it is, right over here. he showed like you can convert amongst these three types between embedded, secure, and open. You know, depending on the situation, you might start with open and you say, oh, as of now, we have to start encrypted things. So you might encrypt and convert to open, and they say that you can't, my little note here says you can't go from file references, you have to import. Well, that's true. And that's doable. I'm actually doing a container project right now, and there's a nice feature, get as text. You point get as text towards a container field and it extracts the path. Which is pretty cool and pretty useful, especially if you're trying to import. And you got to do a little conversion between a FileMaker path and a system path. Actually, no, that's a FileMaker path to FileMaker path, and it just tells you what the path is, which is a pretty good way. So that's pretty cool. Convertible storage.
And there's new functions for that, by the way, as well, right?
What was that?
There's new functions that help you convert.
Oh, absolutely. And Vince, that was 18, right? Or was that 19 that those showed up?
I believe it was,
recent.
Yeah, recent, yes.
Recent, we'll go with recent. All right, recent version. Yeah, some nice functions that showed up that convert between different kinds of path. And I have a diagram. We do a lot of Applescript. I have a diagram on file paths coming up. That's on the top of the list. Oh, and the functions, and you know, Eric was asking a question, what functions? We'll drop it in the chat. From memory here, I think there's like a FileMaker path, the system path, and a system path, the FileMaker path. And you know what? Let's tackle that question when we get to the infographic that we have on file paths, which according to one of my visits to DevCon is the #1 technical support question, or at least it was that year, until installing a digital certificate, which might have knocked it out of first place question. But I've got a nice infographic on both of those topics, which I'm going to put top of the list here. Coming up soon to a screen near you. Convertible storage. This is about how you can convert it. This is image thumbnails. Okay, so that was this little box, a lot of information, chunk sections. Image thumbnails. Get as thumbnail. Pretty sure that was 12. Nice feature. Lots of technical details about the caching of images available for your review in the future. Inserting files, drag and drop, download from URL. Very technical. I'm going to skip it for now. Interactive containers. A lot of technical detail about that. This, I would say, there's lots of settings with containers. I'm not even going to try and go there. I'm going to just punt and say I got other diagrams. But I do drag this out from time to time when I'm trying to sort something out when I need to. Hybrid containers. All containers in Go are interactive. I think some of this stuff gets streamed over port 80 or port 443. Audio video sharing, streaming. Got to be from the server. AirPlay streaming cache, open port. 1.6. I thought that was for the admin console. Streaming is unencrypted. That's good to know. I think that's like even if you have secure, it's unencrypted. So I guess you better have SSLs or something like that. Warning, direct URLs can be hacked. Okay, lots and lots of stuff going on here. All right, how long ago was this? 5 years, so I forgot. You know, anyway, I don't have to know all of this. That's one of the beauties of an infographic is you can figure out how things work, write it down, and kind of clear that out of your mind and think about other things. Oh, get as text improvement. That's very cool. That's the thing I mentioned a moment ago. That's incredibly useful. Include original file name size, data stream. There's also the get container attribute function is pretty terrific. We've got a dedicated file for storing images, and we use pretty much every get as what's it called? Get container attribute. Get container attribute. There's like 20 or 30 parameters that you can give it, including storage type, where you can look at something and you do an auto enter calculation and it'll tell you whether it's embedded or file ref, secure, or open. Let's see, cloning, recycling, ODBC, manage storage, base directory. I'm going to give one other very pragmatic feature that's known about. one of the things that Oleg talked about is the way that they have secure storage set up. They have it designed so that you don't have too many files or folders, too many items, files or folders, not too many in a given folder. Because if you have too many files and or folders in a directory structure, it starts running super duper slow. So they do that for you when it's doing secured. If you're managing your own, they give you a feature called concatenate, which is around here somewhere, where you can set a calculation such that your open storage, you have more folders and therefore fewer files. And that's called concatenate. And that's somewhere in this diagram. And I will leave that as an exercise for people to go back like a treasure hunt. Anyway, there's a lot going on, and now I'm going to look for questions. Okay, convert. Oh, somebody, Sam has given us the names of the functions that we were speaking about: convert from FileMaker path and convert to FileMaker path. And so that's cool. And we always gather the chat notes, and those go up on the website later. And, you know, I'm pretty sure anyone can copy the chat notes if they want to get a jump start on that and have them one day earlier and look up stuff. And Sam also tells us they're in 19. Like we said, recent. We said recent. That's recent. Oh, and here we go. Just below open storage. Concatenate. Thank you. All right. And that was Larry. Saw that. Concatenate. If storage path ends in a colon, use the last segment. So you could, for instance, this is actually super pragmatic. One of the things that's likely to be used. Let's say that you had a lot of images and you've got a serial number as opposed to say you're using a serial number instead of a UUID. Personal preference, either. They're both good, depending. What we would typically do is we would take like the last 2 digits, calculate right, left, 2. That way we have a maximum of 100 files in a folder, in the Finder, if you're on a Mac, or the directory on a Windows, is perfectly happy to have 100 files. That works really good, fast. You can open that folder; it's not going to complain. If you get up to 1,000 files on the Mac, that'd be like, uh-oh, you know, it's just not good. So they built that feature called concatenate, and that's awesome. Okay, and then that's awesome. Okay, so that's containers. Like I said, Nickel Tour. I am going to post these from time to time. It takes me a little time. I got to build a web page. We'll look at one of those maybe at the end of the presentation. I have a simplistic formula. Take the PDF, make a web page, make an image, tweet it once, and that's that. That's basically pretty low frills. I'm capable of doing 141 characters. Not as good at doing a big long blog post, but I can tweet 141. I can get that done. All right, so that's a wrap. Last call for questions on FileMaker container fields before we move to the next infographic. And that's what we're going to do. Just checking time. We're doing good on time. That was half an hour so far. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. And then we'll pick a winner. Let's do file and folder paths. That's a pretty good segue. Start presentation. That was a good tip. Someone presented earlier. Works well. Okay, so this one's a little bit scruffy yet useful. And I actually V-revved it, although I didn't change the date. That's okay. This is recent. I added something. So I'm going to do the why do I care? Look at all this information. Why would I possibly? And the reason is because uh-oh. I just clicked and it zoomed. Okay. All right. So yeah, because obviously we work with file paths a lot. Files on a, export, save as PDF to a shared volume, save as PDF to the local computer, do it on a Mac, do it on a PC. Or like I said, we do a lot of Applescript. Applescript uses, by default, the HFS path, which trivia stands for hierarchical file. I wonder what the S is for. HFS. Okay. Anyway, that's Applescript. And then system path.
System.
Oh, hierarchical file system. Thank you very much. And then system path is the more Unix POSIX type path, also used by base elements. B, by the way, stands for base elements. And then FM path is the FileMaker path. And just to keep your life interesting, they're different. And then, you know, once again, FileMaker 19 added the functions we just mentioned a moment ago, which I believe are system to FileMaker and FileMaker to system. And so this document that I did here predates that function. And my goal was as follows. And like I said, scruffy, but useful. The path locations, let me start over here. Script steps that use paths. And, you know, there it is. It's just listing. Basically, like just putting a lot of script steps and functions on a piece of paper, you know, getting a good night's sleep, walking around the park, looking at it the next day, and just trying to make sense of it all. Functions that use paths, and uh-oh, I clicked again. Don't click. What happens if I go Command Z? Oops. Oh, it goes to the next page. I don't want to go to the next page. Hold on. Let me hit escape. I got to remember not to click. Okay. Start presentation. All right. Don't click. Okay. Script steps, functions, different path prefixes. And I found actually they seem to be, FileMaker platform seems to be relatively forgiving, because I have done a lot of scripts without a prefix and they've worked regardless. But maybe you should use the prefix, but maybe you don't have to, I don't know. So let's see, that's the yellow notes. That's just, you know, scraping the, you know, just getting the script steps and the custom functions and the prefixes, just laying it out. And then there's paths, network paths, which include file shares and basically non-system disk volumes. Even in an external disk, they seem to have the same path. And by the way, you know, none of this is guaranteed to be accurate. It probably is, but if it's not, you know, oh well, I tried. System drive, I think there may be a function for that. If not, you can derive it from documents. I actually forget, but you can derive some things. You know, back in the day, I had a hard drive named that. When I was running 10.6.8, I still have that machine around just in case. 2 terabyte third bay, very useful. I'm waiting for someone to call me and tell me they're running FileMaker 6. I'm ready. And they want to upgrade, obviously. Good idea. This little infographic here, I've got 3 things here, 1, 2, 3, and there's 6 possible functions. My goal here was to have either script functions or custom functions. And we talked about those in a previous presentation. Possibly I would have a script function central that I would pass in one kind of path and get a different kind of path. There's, like I said, predates 19. And or I would have 6 different custom functions. Now, there's some very clever people who have written custom functions that'll convert anything to anything. You know, I kind of like I'd rather have 6 custom functions that are super duper simple than 1 custom function, because I'm not that clever. And so that was the goal. And essentially what I was doing here is just documenting what I would potentially call those custom functions or script functions. And then, you know, as circumstances come up, I'm like, okay, let me just write that once. And here's some get file path. And here's a little Applescript, actually, lower left-hand corner, Applescript, incredibly useful. Now that actually gives me a good segue to the next diagram. you can do clever things. You can convert using Applescript, native Applescript. You can get a POSIX path. You can take a HFS path as input and get a POSIX path as output. So that is the nickel tour. That might have even been like a 25-cent tour. That was worth more than a nickel.
I mean, those new functions that someone just posted in the chat, they allow you to do that too.
Do they do the HFS as well?
They can convert to POSIX. I'm not sure. I mean, if it's HFS, I think it's. That's a good question. I'm not sure about HFS, but definitely POSIX.
All right, and it's my mission, and you know, one of my goals is to. I'm a bit of an Applescript evangelist, partly because I use it for a tremendous number of things, and it's certainly, and I would certainly, once I have a client base that's locked in at a particular version, I will take custom functions that were kind of polyfills, just to use a fancy word, that were providing functionality that didn't exist native in the platform. And once I got everybody locked into a particular version, JSON's a good example. You know, you might use the base elements JSON functionality, but once everybody's locked in at 16, you know, 8 servers on 18, clients on 16, any kind of way that you know that 16 is available, I'll definitely start to phase out stuff and you know, go native. The so I'm looking again at the chat here. Let's see, open storage system, something. Oh, can anyone elaborate on the purpose of the prefix? I think the prefix, I'd imagine that there may have been a time when the prefix was necessary, and that might even be true at this moment in time. And I guess I would say, you know, totally use the prefix, and they're all in the docs. I just wanted to say that, you know, I exported a PDF yesterday to a file server, and I didn't use a prefix. It's just a disclaimer. And I guess I'll punt on that and say, test, see how it works for you. You know, who knows? Maybe it depends on the operating system and the weather. Can you run FileMaker on an Apple II? Sure, why not? I think you have to upgrade the chip though. Yes, I think the answer is yes. You can run FileMaker on an Apple II. You just need an early version of FileMaker, I reckon. I don't know. And then we got Sean's dropping a link about the convert from FileMaker path. And so a little, you know, these links, you know, everybody's got a chance to follow up on different things. Are these, Dean's asking, are these infographics available to download? And the answer is some are currently available for download, and I'll point out which ones those are. And I'll be dropping links. Some of the ones that I'm showing are not yet. I've got some of these I want to take through like a final vetting process, maybe fix some punctuation or something. And then for each one that I put up, I have to, I got to do a web page. And, you know, that takes me 15 minutes to 30 minutes. So I got to find 15 minutes to 30 minutes. So, and I might, you know, here's what I wanted to say so I don't feel guilty. This presentation will be recorded. In terms of my punch list of, you know, my to-do, top of the list is I do a web page with a, it's basically a table of contents with timestamp links. And I think Eric, I don't want to put him on the spot, but also does the same thing. So there'll be an entry point. So you'll be able to say, oh, I just want to see that file thing. So you'll be able to go to the video and see it. So in the interim, while you're waiting for the fancy pants PDF, you'll be able to, you know, watch it on a screen, take a screenshot. So, you know, the usefulness will be there, and it'll only get more useful when I print a real PDF. But in the meantime, it'll be available in a screenshot from a video, and, you know, feel free to screenshot it. And just give me a little time to get around to posting these, because every time I show one of these, it gives me a homework assignment. Let me think for a second. And I'll point out the ones that we have. We've got I've got 5 plus the ones that we did for DevCon, which totals like 11 of these things are already up, but I've got like 30 of these or more. So that's a lot. Here's one. File paths for redirect profiles on RDS accounts. are different than standard windows. And that's a good point. Yeah, there's I actually, with the file paths, there's a lot of complexity with what's that other thing, file vault and stuff like that. And I was gonna like tackle it all, and then I decided just to go for the common use cases that got me through the day. And then in Benedict's asking OmniGraffle, hey Benedict, send me an email back channel, because if you've got OmniGraffle, there's an expression, many hands make light work, and I'm not adverse to other people picking some topics off here, because the FileMaker platform is vast, and I've documented a bunch of the features, but there's some that I missed, and I can tell you what I did and what I didn't do, so we're not overlapping effort. Anyone else has OmniGraffle wants to play, just send me an email. Tony, I'll drop the link later. I think it's easy to find. Tony_White at twdesigns.com. That anyway, that I'll drop it later when I get a pause, because I want to get to the next infographic. A lot of people dropping links. Eric says thank you for the links. A little crowdsource effort going on here. All right, so that's, oh, I clicked again. I wasn't supposed to click. Maybe that's my cue. Okay, file paths. I think we covered that pretty good. Let's move on to a different one. Which one shall we go to? Ecosystem. I think ecosystem would be fun. Okay, that was pretty technical. Let's do something salesy. And this is the Applescript segue. Okay. All right, I'm going to have a sip of a refreshing beverage here. A little orange juice, cut 50-50 with water. Okay, so ecosystem. So this one is a little bit salesy. This was done relatively recent, not that recent. So what's the goal? Why do I care? The goal of this particular diagram was to showcase FileMaker as let me actually back up and say one of the greatest features of FileMaker is its ability to play nice with others, which is another way of saying that it integrates with a lot of different technologies and makes an awesome hub for a bigger solution where FileMaker is, let's just say it's at the center, and or playing a starring role. Maybe it's got a co-star, but and it's playing nice. So FileMaker often exists within, well, it exists within an ecosystem. And so what does that ecosystem consist of? What are the other softwares and or platforms that FileMaker might integrate with? So we'll just go clockwise. We'll start off over here, upper left-hand corner, where we will say the FileMaker platform itself is multifaceted, from a single development environment. Back in the day, you had FileMaker Pro and FileMaker Pro Advanced. That's now, unified. FileMaker Glow, look at that, a native client. How about that? And a server. And it's all, one coding environment. You don't have to learn 20 or 30 different programming languages, although it doesn't hurt you. And hold on. Oh, co-star could be Claris Connect. Excellent point. Oh, and that's actually, that's a really doubly good point, because this diagram that we have done here predates the entry onto the stage of Claris Connect. And once again, disclaimer, we really almost never go back and V-rev these diagrams, because there's always some other area that we haven't covered at all. And we maximize the return on investment by covering new areas.
Whoever left him wanted him to be found.
So we got a little background. Which went away? Good. Maybe it went away. Okay, FileMaker Server, Web Direct, and then Cloud, and which is, I think, Cloud 2.0 now. Server Admin Console. Anyway, that's the platform. Okay, and then we'll go around like clockwise. A lot of projects rely on ODBC. I gave a special shout out to ESS because mostly we've been doing that on a bunch of projects. Interestingly enough, we some of the ESS projects we did, we migrated to JSON to do the connectivity. We were doing one project where there's so much data transfer. We're doing ESS, worked beautifully for a number of years. It was awesome. We were moving data one record at a time, and then we switched it to a FileMaker robot running, and we got robots on the lower right-hand corner. FileMaker robot running an on-timer script trigger that was pulling down records of 50 at a time. Seemed like a plausible payload size. And then it was piping them into the system and doing new records and updates. It's an integrated Ruby on Rails. But, you know, what's it called? External SQL sources. That's what ESS stands for, external SQL sources. Awesome technology. This I included this little green box because we're often talking with our customers. This is out of date. Timbuktu's been deprecated, or it's you know, gone. But you know, that's a little conversation about, hey, we're part of the ecosystem, you know, because we work remotely and we have tools. And we were like, if you give us a VNC connection and some way to connect your system, we can work on your system with our tools. Remote staff. This is actually pretty exciting, the web services. Claris Connect, I heard some good success stories with the Claris Connect, which is you know, a really good option for people who are maybe not hardcore programmers or just, you know, want to make their life a little easier. And then there's you know, many ways to get value out of the FileMaker platform. And one of the ways is to do the custom integration going through the RESTful API, you know, with the post and the push. Is it post? You know, gets and posts and so forth. And so we did web services. I put 9. There are more than 9. There's hundreds. There's thousands of them. A special shout out to Mailchimp. We did a Mailchimp integration for the New York FileMaker Pro user group. We are going to have a presentation coming up as soon as I get my act together. I was kind of waiting until after this one. If the recording goes well, I'll know what I'm not presenting on. Transactional email, Google Maps. We did do Google Maps for the user groups. A little bit out of date. Shout out to the user groups. Everyone join every user group. You get nice emails. They're free. Find out what's going on around the world. Join the virtual meetups from wherever you are. They're happening all over the world. Australia, England, US, Canada, everywhere. Different languages, even. There's some French stuff going on. Zut alors. But anyway, we did Google Maps, and we'll do that. And then gentleman from Germany is also doing a aggregation of meetups and or user group meetings. And FileMaker has an events page, and you should sign up to all of them. Slack, great for notifications. Lots of web services. Pick your one. All right. Now, Applescript is a big deal for us. Not everyone uses Applescript, but it's incredibly useful. See if I can come up with a good example. We do an Apple Mail integration. We archive Apple. There's a good one. We archive Apple Mails. We get email. We don't archive every email we get, but sometimes they're awesome emails, and we will archive them into a FileMaker database using Applescript to extract the individual EML, the recipients, the to, the subject, the body, the attachments, all of it with Applescript. Calendar integration, MYOB, we did one of those. Oh, Excel, that's the other one. I'm not going to give a shout out to all of them. Microsoft Excel, one of the frequently asked questions is like, how do I do an Excel document with custom headers, or how do I do an Excel document based out of, let me just say that Excel has a very robust Applescript implementation that we use a lot. Also Microsoft Word, FileMaker, we do a lot of documents from FileMaker, but the Applescript implementation for Word is very strong. Anyway, Applescript is amazing, awesome. You do have to check a checkbox to allow it. You should, you know, be careful with that, but we use it a lot. That's a whole presentation
Hey,
in and of itself.
Tony.
Yes, sir.
Tony, seeing as you do a lot of Applescript work, have you also been doing more series shortcuts or just shortcuts work on mobile devices?
I think the go-to presentation is actually Fabio Beeswax blog posts, series shortcuts. I have not had an occasion
Yeah.
to do that.
I was just curious if you
No, it's really, it's a very cool thing. It's just that's a part of the platform that I haven't had the occasion. Fabio did some awesome presentations at the New York FileMaker Pro user group that predated the whole COVID time and weren't recorded. But then again, then he did blog posts, right, Vince, on the Beeswax site that I would encourage people to go look at because it's very cool stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe someone will drop a link on that. That was really good stuff. Robots, we do a lot of robots. Robots kind of, have a contest. Am I going to use a robot for this functionality or am I going to use PSOS? Or maybe I'm going to use PSOS for some things, PSOS being perform script on server. And, I think, Vince, you've also done a ton of stuff on that. I've done a ton with robots. It's a good use for an old Mac. Sit there chugging away, working a queue of data, pinging a web service and pulling down data. I'm a huge fan of robots. Let me think what else we got. Local developer, WebDirect, shout out to WebDirect, obviously. And then shout out to the mobile. What else? Local developer, in-house staff, screen share machines. So that's the ecosystem, and it's pretty darn impressive. And then Google Drive, backups. If you obviously people should do backups, local backups to the server, which probably sits in the building. Maybe that gets you up offsite. If not, we'll basically put, we'll zip, compress, encrypt stuff and send it up to most often Amazon, sometimes Dropbox. And then conversely, if we have something hosted on Amazon, we'll build the functionality for people to be able to pull data in case AWS goes down every now and then, once or twice a year, maybe. And that is the overview nickel tour of the pretty good thing overview on the what I call the ecosystem and integration, I guess would be an alternate name for it. And I'm looking over at the chat to see any questions. Okay, let's see. Oh, calendar subscribe. Thank you for the link. And that's Egbert was the name that I couldn't come to. Chris, thank you, Chris Moore. .fm, I think, is the conference. It's I believe it's described as a pan-European, which means like all. And that anyway, they do a big conference over there. I'm not sure what language it's in. Hopefully English. I know that one. Let's see, found. Nice blog, the Siri thing. That was a very cool presentation. I'll do the why do I care about that. Imagine speaking into a phone and saying, Siri, how many widgets did I sell this month? And having Siri, if I get this right, Siri coming back and say, you sold 100 widgets this month. And then you say, Siri, what was my revenue for January? And Siri comes back and says, $10 million. That'd be nice. Although profit would be more important. Okay, Node-RED, like us. All right, so Brian, somebody's got a link to a YouTube video about Node-RED, which I think I pronounced this right. Louis did a presentation for DIGFM on Node-RED that's recorded, and it's in the back catalog. You can find it on the YouTube channel, which is YouTube DIGFM, custom channel, custom URL. And I don't know much other than that about Node-RED. I think it's like a visual, let's see, it's a visual tool for designing APIs, like pipeline. And I better not say any more because I'll get myself in trouble because I'll get it wrong. I clicked again, which I guess is my cue for exiting out of this and going to the next one. Let's see, a little time check. So we're about an hour in. I hope we're going at a good pace. Let's see what to do. Which one? Let's pick an easy one. Oh, .fm, then Chris says, is conducted in English. That's cool. And I actually, I've not been to one of them in person. I do look at what they post as their content, because it's, and that's another reason I say, you know, I signed up to every user group that would have me, which was all of them. And I get the emails because, you know, I do a lot of the organizing for the New York FileMaker per user group, and just, you know, we're thinking topics. What are people talking about? You know, maybe we're going to talk about the same thing. Here's a good one. Okay. Here we go. Start presentation. Let's see. Oh, this one, hopefully this is pretty viewable. This one, I did this infographic in portrait mode as opposed to landscape. That's just the way that it worked out. Okay, and hopefully it's viewable. So what is, I'm sorry? I just heard the voice. Hopefully it's viewable. So what is it? This is custom keyboard shortcuts. So shout out to Matt Petrowski, who was the first person to do custom keyboard shortcuts that I'm aware of. Someone else might have done it first. That's who I saw first. Whoever, you know, whoever did it, shout out to you. You know who you are. And I'll drop some links about this. Once again, New Zealand, Daniel Wheatbix did a blog post, his take on custom keyboard shortcuts. And then we did one where there's a shell script that lets you build these things. What does that mean? That lets you add custom shortcuts. So here's the chronology. Matt Petrowski built a tool and did a blog post saying, hey, this is possible. And he built a really, as Matt does, beautiful interface for facilitating the process of adding custom keyboard shortcuts. And we saw that and said, wow, that's awesome. Let's do the same. Now we have a slight disagreement. Can you imagine programmers disagreeing on stuff, user interface? It happens. It's true. So this is what we came up with for our custom keyboard shortcuts. The ones that are in green boxes are the ones that are added. The ones that are not in green boxes are pre-existing, built in, at least for my English language version of FileMaker. I can't speak for other languages, but these are the ones that we added. And if you look, and that's one of the reasons I did this thing portrait, is because it kind of shows you, it's relatively easy to memorize because I only have to really memorize 3 modifier keys. So for the manage, if you look under here, file, manage, here, I'll do the little mathy thing. If you look at that, you know, basically I'm using the same modifier keys, and, you know, T for, well, what's common? Custom functions, X. I could have done F, I think. I don't know why I didn't do F, but I did X. I've got to memorize. I ain't changing it. External data sources, E, that's pretty obvious. Valueless is V for valueless. That's pretty easy to remember. Security, I think S was taken by script, so I did A for accounts. You know, that's the mnemonic I used on that. Let's see, what else did we do? Anyway, so that's what I use. And then these are incredibly useful over here. These are addictive. The ones in green boxes for smallest width and, well, you can read them. Smallest width, smallest height, largest width, largest height. I skipped the 2 because I just, you know, I'm happy to do 2 steps instead of 1. Once my hands are on the keyboard, I can hit 2 arrow keys in quick succession. Anyway, I find those incredibly useful. Addictive, like I said. I actually set up a new computer to do a different Yeah, I have a bunch of computers to service the client base that we have, which is tragically spread across like 14 to 19 is where we're at with our clients, where we're pouring on value wherever the heck they are. Anyways, I got 2 different computers. So I was like working on the new computer a while ago, and I was like, I didn't have the keyboard shortcuts, and it was a sad time until I ran a shell script, and then I had the keyboard shortcuts. It took me minutes to run the shell script, and I've actually been distributing the shell script, and if you send me an email, I'll send it to you. And let's see. Oh, and over here, this show seems useful. It's very consistent. I don't use it that much, but there it is. I'm using these more and more. There's 3 of them. The script debugger and the data viewer, which is, I think that's called a caret B, caret D. Oh, and conditional formatting. This one I use a ton. Anyway, that is the 10-cent tour. These are awesome. Sean found the FileMaker standards. That's the first art, or whatever the heck you call it. And then Vince is dropping. There's a ton of like a video. Someone did a video. I didn't know that. Someone did a video on shortcuts. Very cool. Anyway, that's my take on it. That's my infographic on it. And feel free to use the same mnemonics or use your own. It's your choice. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to take time here. Enter chat messages. I'm going to, since I've said twice, actually, it says enter chat message here, but it's not letting me do that. Oh, because I got to select everyone. Like I offered to send things to people, and I'm going to type my email. I'm not a great typist. Hence the keyboard shortcuts and the macros. By blah blah blah. That's me. Okay, so I'll send you the. I have in my correspondence generation system. I have it queued up to send the shell script, and then you're on your own after that. It's pretty straightforward. It's got the instructions. Other people have done it. It works. Okay. There we go. Let's see. I'm going to pick a good one here. All right, we did windowing. Let me think. Time check. We're still good, doing good on time. Oh, I was going to ask questions. I don't think we have many questions on that. That's pretty straightforward. It's keyboard shortcuts. File, join table, lookup. That's too complicated. Shortcuts. Oh, let's do this one. Okay. I got to do this one. Might as well do it now. Okay. All right. So at one of the DevCons, at each DevCon, you know, in years gone by, I would talk to tech support people. One sec. A little beverage. Hold on just one second. Hold on one sec. A little spill here. Okay. Emergency's over. So I talked to tech support, and I would say, what's your #1 question? And one year they said file pass, and another year they said digital certificates, and happened to be when digital certificates first came out. And so yes, digital, you know, first time we did installed a digital certificate, it was complicated. First time's harder, second time's easier. So one of the things that we did is like, whoa, this is pretty complicated. And just for the record, hold on, I'm just checking the chat here for a second. Oh, that's a good, before we go too deep into this, do we also do shortcuts for users as opposed to the developers? That's a good question. And the answer is, generally speaking, no. What we do that's kind of relevant to keyboard shortcuts and menus, which are kind of a connected thing, because menus and keyboard shortcuts are 2 different methods of, you know, running something, is we definitely do custom functions. And I have a custom function diagram. It's a little bit on the mediocre side, so probably won't get to it because it's not as spiffy as the ones that we're showing. But we definitely, when possible, do custom menus. Certainly for things like taking away delete all records. We'll also do the privilege set thing. But, if we're going to, generally speaking, delete all records is not something that we want to be kind of like, here, look at this. Try it, see what it does. So we'll do custom menus. And that's kind of what we do in terms of keyboard shortcuts or associated menus that are facing the user. So that's an answer to the question, and that catches us up on chat. And so for the record, let us note that this particular diagram was done in 2016, and it was done when digital certificates came on board. We installed one, and we knew that it was going to be complicated, and we wanted to be able to reproduce it. And one of the good things about a diagram is so let's say you have more than one developer on the team. Anything more than one plus a customer, that's 3 at least, a minimum of 3, could be more, depending on the size of the team, depending on the number of people at the customers. So the work that goes into an infographic gets leveraged by at least 3 and sometimes more than 3, because maybe depending on the feature, maybe the customer wants to know how the heck something works. When you write some code and put it into their system, maybe they want to know what the heck you did. And then maybe one developer does something and they want to show it to the other developer, and maybe there's a little back and forth. It certainly happens to me. When I show stuff, I often, very often, sadly, get improvements. Actually, no, that's good news. People say, hey, it would be slightly better if you did this. So, and then when you document it, you can come back the next day. By the time you get to V6, this is V6, you can wind up with something that's pretty good. So what is this? Basically, here's the nickel tour. Step one, obtain a fully qualified domain name, otherwise known as FQDN, for the FileMaker server. And that's usually handled by the customer, who's got to, authenticate themselves as the owner of the domain and set up the domain and the DNS. And, that's usually the internal team takes ownership. Now, FileMaker has the FileMaker platform at various stages in the process, provides a user interface. We're pretty happy dropping to the command line. We appreciate the user interface, and yet we drop to the command line. And then there's, this is why we document. There's like a collection of files. You get this file, which is named this, and this file that's named that. And you do this like occasionally, not every day, so you forget. Then you pull out the piece of paper. I'm like, when I did this like months ago or a year ago, or whatever, like, let me pull out the piece of paper because I forget. And then there's a difference between the different, what are they called? Certificate authorities, I think. Slightly different the way they stack up the encryption stuff. What's it called? The cryptographic stuff. All right, anyway, then you send your certificate signing request to the certificate authority. Oh, there it is, certificate authority. And then they do something with it. And then, you send it to them, and then they send you something back. And that's what it looks like, or that's the name. And then you install it. And then how do you install it? Oh, you run command line, Mac, Windows, and there you go. And now, cryptography is interesting, especially if you're a mathlete, as many of us are. First time I saw cryptology, I said, wow, that's very cool. This public-private key technology, I thought that was pretty cool, that you can verify that FMS is who it says. I am who I say that I am, to avoid the man-in-the-middle attack, and also to encrypt the traffic. And so it's pretty magical. There's a whole topic, a lot of DevCon presentations on that. FileMaker client software, and it's built into the platform, baked in at a deep level. FileMaker is because it's security, is not going to say, here's how we did it, because it's security. Number one rule about security is don't talk about security. I mean, or at least be careful, because the more you say, you might expose the vulnerability, unless you're super confident. Oh, intermediate certificates. Some vendors have intermediate certificates, and then there's different kinds of certificates. I think it showed up in 14, and then 15, it got improved to do subdomains or something like that. As of 15, yeah, there it is. I should read this. And then a link. And, and then here we go. Shout out to the functions that showed up. Maybe digital, I don't know when they showed up. Get connection state, so it's a process. Anyway, some functions. So we pull this out from time to time when we're doing the digital certificate installation. I'm not ashamed to go look at a cheat sheet from time to time. So with that said, that's the #1 tech support request. And I wish I had one for every certificate authority, but so now we're looking at the chat before moving on to the next. Have any questions? Get them in, because I got one or two here. Oh, someone says, yeah, I always do the custom menus. Yeah, we do them, and see if I get this right. FileMaker 16, shout out to FileMaker engineers for adding the ability to copy and paste custom menus to the platform, which I believe was 16 and up. Before that, they added valueless, which I think showed up in 15. Oh, no, wait. Custom menus was 17 and valueless was 16. I think that's correct. If it's wrong, you can always look it up. But yeah, custom menus, I think, was 17 and up. Valueless was 16. And, every time FileMaker Incorporated, now known as Claris, I've been around a while. I still have to correct myself about that. Every time they add the ability to copy and paste a new FileMaker object, the productivity goes up, up, up. And some kind words from Benedict about he's loving these infographics. And okay, I'm glad thanks for the thanks. Well, then let's show you another one. Okay, so we did a last call for questions. Moving on to the next one. Trying to pick a winner here. Let's do this one. Yeah, what the heck? This one's pretty simple, but it's nice. We'll do this one quickly. This one goes back in time, even though apparently V-Rev did in January of this year. And this one is actually sort of talks about an area that I wish I knew a little bit more about, but it's kind of interesting. It has to do with, I'm going to do once again, the why do I care? So first off, I do care, and I really care. And wow, this screenshot's from a while ago, 11. But it's still the same interface for this particular feature. So one of the things that I think about is how many files to have in a solution, right? So true story, we're in the process of building a big system. And at some point in the build out, we built out single file because it's a fast. And at some point, we got a little controversy here. I think Vince just said one file. So we did have the solution. It's really big enterprise level stuff where we split it. And I think that's an interesting debate, probably a whole second meeting about how many files to have in a solution. But just to get back to what this diagram is talking about is like 3 window states. And you can just see it like this are open files with visible windows. Purple is open files with hidden windows. And then these are hidden files with no windows. And I put this out here, and I'll be honest with you, I'd be hard pressed to say that I know absolutely everything that there is to know about the ramifications of the 3 different states for Windows. I wish I did. What does it mean? when you go from state 2 to state 3, does it load more relationship graph stuff? Does it have an impact on performance? And I will say, I don't know. If I was at DevCon, I might ask one of the engineers, but I don't know. But it's a pretty diagram. And I just clicked again. Let me exit. Did anyone have any questions or riffs on that? If so, feel free. Oh, and someone said JSON. Oh, that's awesome. You want to see, that's one of my whoever, Mike, thank you for saying JSON, because I was looking through my things. I got a really awesome one on JSON. And I'm going to just like bail out of this one by clicking. And I'm going to go to, I think it's awesome. And maybe you do too. Let's see. And JSON is a very popular topic. Okay. All right, so when JSON showed up, we've got some enthusiasm for the JSON diagram. So let's see, here's some good news about this one. For everyone who's asking like, hey, is this available on the web? The answer for this one is yes, this one is available. And a bunch of others are available at the website. Links all over the place, links on the announcement page. It's the domain for my email. And you can find this right on the front page on the left sidebar. So when FileMaker 16 showed up, JSON showed up in a big way. And so big, as a matter of fact, so impactful, because it really is, that we did an infographic. And a lot of people were doing a lot of work. I think actually this might have been the one that this was like our annual Bring It to DevCon, which is usually the one that, we try and make as awesome as possible. Not scruffy. We have a lot of scruffy, like I said, but we try and have at least one that looks nice, crisp and perfect, or almost perfect. And so this is this one. So I got to do popovers. I got to remember to do popovers. That's one of the good ones. Plenty of time for it. We're doing good on time. Okay, so when we do these diagrams, upper left is usually dedicated to two things. What do you call it? A definition and a why do we care? Not always true, but let's see. What is JSON? Hey, that's a swell question. So it's a definition, it's JavaScript object notation, and it's a lightweight data interchange format. Okay, it is not the programming language. That's called, and people know this, but just in case somebody's listening to the recording, or maybe someone's new to the platform, JSON is not JavaScript, but it is the native data format for JavaScript, as far as I know. It is also very handy for other programming languages that adapted it. It's kind of like taken market share from XML, which is also awesome. Room for both. XML is more verbose, and sometimes verbosity is just what you need. JSON is lighter weight. Data over the wire with a post and a get, rather a post, I'd say. JSON is good. It's lighter weight and fits a bunch of use cases. And it is built into the FileMaker platform in a big way as of FileMaker 16. So it's got a certain number of data types. It's got data types that are different than FileMaker's, which is worth noting, because often you like, they have a Boolean, and we can kind of fashion a Boolean. They have a null, and we can kind of make a null. They have an object and an array, which is the nesting structure. They have number and string. Haha, we have date and timestamp. They have ISO format for timestamp. Anyway, so there's some things to know, because you're basically having to do a little bit of translation. I did a lot of it. Most of it actually. The integration that I was talking about earlier did a fair bit of transformation of between data types. But moving, let me think, supported, it's great. That's the top box. We did sample JSON and, a little subliminal message, nyfmp.org. And what we did here with the boxes, objects are green, arrays are red. It's arbitrarily. Make a poem out of that. We did the boxes to document the nested structure, because essentially JSON is it's a nested structure. This within this within this, and then we did here bottom left-hand corner JSON functions. I think I got them all there, and then we're using the functions. And we're doing, at the time that we released this, JSON 16 had just come out. We had clients on prior to, so we began rolling out JSON functionality using the base elements plugin prior to the arrival of 16. And so when we did this document, we thought it would be overall net positive, useful to the platform to document both methodologies. Both for people who hadn't yet upgraded and also for people who are potentially migrating from base elements plugin calls to native calls, so they could see how they map and, like we were talking about earlier, refactor from a plugin to native, because then you can run it from mobile. Just keep moving forward, taking whatever steps forward are available based on the client base and project situational stuff. And on the lower right-hand corner, JSON that successfully formats pretty prints. So that's format elements is a good way to validate. I think it's a good way to validate code. We'll sometimes build JSON up with text functions and then validate it. Sometimes we'll build it with the JSON functions. But sometimes I've done tricks with just using text and then validate it at the end, because here's a secret: JSON is just text. JSON is text. That has a certain convention. It's got to have the right formats, including you need escaping. You need to escape certain characters, and this is apparently the special characters that need escaping. Oh, and then here was a tip, like if you have base elements, you could dry up your code by taking all your base element call, wrap them in a custom function, and switch your custom function. Anyway, there's ways to migrate your code base forward, which is an interesting topic in and of itself. So that's our take on JSON. There's a lot of other good stuff out there. I think Jeremy Brown has did some amazing work in terms of the JSON JavaScript round trip applications, popularizing, so if you look at JSON, it's just a technology, why do I care? So why do I care about JSON? I care because a lot of people, it does make a good methodology for passing a parameter, because you can only ever pass one, that contains multiple key value pairs, and or in the case of JSON, it's really good at nested objects like an invoice with its associated line items, because of its nested structure. That's one. And the other, and Dean mentions, certainly if you're using integrating with a API, all of the APIs, I shouldn't say all, most of the APIs, the majority of the APIs have seem to standardize or migrate in the direction of JSON. So that, so you need it for that, communicating with the external APIs for sure. You might have, you might have some legacy code where you're using something like 6-fried rice to package up key value pairs. You might migrate that over to JSON over time. We've done that from time to time. And what's the other thing? These round trip applications and or these integrations where you're integrating, say, JavaScript library, like full calendar is one that comes to mind. And there's a bunch of other ones. Those are often Google Maps is another one, or oh gosh, I forget. There's another one that we're using on a project. Maybe it's, I forget what it's called. But anyway, if you're feeding data from FileMaker, you're generally going to package up as JSON and feed it into an application that's using JavaScript is going to expect JSON as the data. And that's an entire, that's like 2 or 3 meetings right there about these JSON JavaScript integrations. And all I should say at this point in time is that there's amazing possibilities there, especially if you go round trip using the FMP Euro protocol. It's just amazing what can be done. So I think that's all I want to say. Now I'm seeing some things on the chat, so I'm going to catch up over there. Okay, JSON massively important in integration projects. It's basically the go-to technology. It has supplanted, it's won the market share. It's the perfect use case. It's lightweight. XML is still great. FileMaker uses XML for the representation of the clipboard, for the DDR. The verbosity is apparently quite useful when you're documenting, or what's it called, streaming out complex structures. I like XML, actually. I like JSON. I like them both. Shall we start a multiple script parameter discussion? We have one of those. Now let me do a time check, because I got 2 things. I got to do the popover, which is awesome. Good on time. I got time for at least those and probably more. Okay, multiple script parameters. We'll come back on that. Okay, I do have a good thing on that. Okay, so JSON's awesome, and it's a massive topic. And I am going to locate popover, I hope. There we go. Okay, start presentation. Okay, I'm gonna move the chat for a second. Alrighty, so popovers. This is, I think, one of. Oh, I clicked. Don't click. Okay. So popovers. So background. The first presentation I did for DIGFM was FileMaker Code Objects as ERD. And that was an overview of the platform code objects. Didn't do server, nothing about server, nothing about deployment in any way, shape, or form, and nothing about scripting, just objects. You know, what are the pieces that we put together to build a solution? And they included, basically you could, classes of things. If you work from the MVC, one second. Excuse me. If you work from the MVC point of view, taxonomy, categories, you've got the model, which is tables and fields. I don't know, relationship graph, maybe that's part of the model, who knows. MV, controller, logic is scripts, let's say, just to be simple. But layout objects is a big deal. Okay, and in the code objects is ERD. We did all the layout objects, and if you look closely at that diagram, and I encourage you to do it, not now, but later, you will notice that there's a lot of information. There's a listing of the layout objects, basically like laying out the tools on the workbench and saying, you know, I'm going to build a user interface. I can use a popover, I can use a button bar, I can use buttons, I can use sliders, I can use web viewers, I can use portals, and I'm sure I left some out. And that's great. And they were all on that one piece of paper. And on this is a drill down. This is a drill down into popovers. So when in FileMaker 13, 14, and 16, and 17, I would say, a lot of new layout objects showed up. Popovers showed up, and you know, once again, they showed up in 13, and they got enhanced in 14. And 14, they were joined with button icons, which are actually called glyphs. Maybe I think glyphs is the official name, and also button bar showed up. but forget about those other things because this is all about popovers. And the goal here was to one page. And this diagram, you might have noticed, is a multi-page because when we do an omnigraphal, this will be, typically we'll do an overview, which will be the thing that we can actually share with someone. And then we'll have other things that we're looking at, including the underlying XML, which is a deep in the weeds topic for another day. This is basically something that we would send to a customer and potentially look at ourselves. We might send it to someone back in the day, and this was in 2016. We might have a client on 12, and we were like, hey, if you were on 14, you'd have popovers, or 13. 14, you get the full popover treatment. So that would be one reason we would do this. Hold on, let me just time check. Okay, then, and then I was thinking to myself, for any given object, whether it's a popover, button bar, if I were to do a deep dive on that object, what would be the different things that I would want to know about that object in order to make intelligent decisions? And basically, one of the things that I've discovered is true for me, probably for others, is the more I know about a particular object, the more likely I'm going to be able to make the most of it. So it's a little bit wax on, wax off, but if you watch the movie Karate Kid, all that wax on, wax off, then you win the trophy. Anyway, you build a good user interface. So here's the deep dive. So we do a definition, popovers. I'm going to walk through this once again. Here's the nickel tour. Popover is actually, it's called a popover. It's actually two objects. It's a button plus a popover. And so already we've made an interesting distinction that has ramifications in terms of our design, has ramifications in terms of themes, and so forth. So a popover button, just definitions, a popover, a special type of button, it's actually a button, hence the phrase popover button, that displays a popover. All right, that's the definition, doesn't hurt. What are we talking about? That is the definition. And then why would I use them? They're useful situations, otherwise new windows. So we do the use cases. It's like, why do I care? They can be useful. And so this is just brainstorming. And then we'll typically, for any given client, we will keep our eye out for at least one use case of a popover. Because we feel, if we find a useful use case, that's great. If we find a use case that's marginally useful, we might put a popover in there on the theory that the person using the system might be like, that's great, it's a wonderful thing, but it doesn't do me any good there. But over here would change my life. So we'll try and use each feature, not always, but often try and use each feature once. And at minimum, we'll put it into our system so that we can at least demo each feature at least once in our system, because we often show our system or our systems to people saying, hey, check this out. Look, there's a card window. Look how nice it looks. And, on down the list, we've got one of everything at a minimum, sometimes more. So that's the use cases. Then there's the technical, little tool tips. And I think there's sometimes warnings. And then let's swing over here. So that's, just text and executive summary. You could think of that. Now, here's a concept that a popover is referred to, hey, I have a popover, and that's singular, and yet it is a compound object. There's a number of compound objects, and knowing what's a compound object and what's not a compound object has ramifications in terms of understanding how to use it. Examples of compound objects from memory, a button bar, singular, is a compound object because it contains the button bar itself. I hope I get this right. Segments, and I believe dividers. I think that's 3. Portals contain portal rows. And I think I'll stop there. And why does that matter? It matters because the stylistic attributes are applied on the component level. So if you're building, if you're styling an object using the inspector and the appearance pane, you're going to be styling an object on the component level. The good news is if you've taken the time to get a custom theme, whether you build your own or whether you find the one that suits your fancy, the styles are applied on the top level. So it's faster. But if you're working out the styling, and I'm pretty sure that's right. For some reason, I think is that the way it works? I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, but it's over here, so I can just look. So maybe I'm not right about that. So for a popover, you style the button as a button, and you style the popover as a popover. Okay, all right. So good to know. Then moving right along, and I'd have to play around with the others to look to see how we're doing them. A lot of the stuff we do is code gen, and it just lands already pre-configured, which is kind of a dual-edged sword because it helps and it hurts in a way. So with a popover, the other thing that we do is for any given component, and this is more relevant, this is particularly useful for button bars. Is that right? Button bars, yeah. Trying to figure out, where the name goes. Can you name this component or can you name that? Because for a given compound object, sometimes you can conditionally format something. So we do, this isn't the greatest demonstration of this, but it looks to me like a popover. Actually, where did I put it? Maybe it's on a different page. But we did document this on the code objects as ZRD. And basically, we go through the object and we do a little bit of an exploration of where can I put a tooltip. I use less and less tooltips because I use popovers because tooltips don't work on mobile because you can't hover. More popovers. It's a good substitute for a tooltip. Where can you apply a script trigger? Where can you apply conditional formatting? Where can you apply an object name? Because depending on the nature of the object, and let me think. Oh, and here's a visual demonstration of a popover. Oh, and hold on one second. I got someone in the chat. We got someone a little heavy on the text. Let me just see what else I got there. This is the omnigraphal is multiple pages. And I actually looked at this earlier today. This is page 2. And look, less text. Eric was like too heavy on the text. It could be. So I went, it's a good excuse to go to page 2, where this is a script that I got from FileMaker hacks. And we'll drop a link. Let me make a note, FileMaker hacks. This is a clever script that I did not figure out, but I did read and understand it, which enables a popover to appear, but you have to click a button to close it. So it makes makes a popover modal, because a popover by itself, without the script or something similar, would be modaless. You just click away, and it would let you. But here, this is where no, we really want you to say proceed or cancel, modal, forcing a response. And so that script does that. And we did implement that because we thought that was pretty cool. I'm going to click again. Let's see if it goes to page 3. Why wouldn't it go to, oh, this one. I wanted to go to this. Okay, so this was something I was playing around, and I found this useful. Button popover content. All right, this was, oh, this is good. Okay, if I say so myself. So at the top, so popovers are so complex that, it's like a multi-page exploration. So here in the upper right-hand corner, this is what I was trying to look for earlier, just minutes ago, as a matter of fact.
Hey, Tony, 5-minute warning.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Turn off the mouse because thank you for the 5-minute warning. I was playing with the inspector, and when you select the compound object, then the inspector will actually tell you, by graying things out, it'll tell you what your choices are. And I thought that was pretty useful because it basically, using the user interface provided by the engineers. Thank you for the link for the FileMaker hacks thing. By just looking at what the engineers have provided in the user interface, it tells you what's possible and what's not possible. Like, can you do padding? Apparently you can do padding on the button level, but if this is grayed out, it means you can't do padding on the content level. So any questions on that? We're wrapping in. So I'm happy to stop with that. Oh, I will. Let me actually hold on. I'll show you the. Let me just get out of here. Let me show you what's available. This one is on the website. This one's on the website. This one we didn't cover, but it's on the website, and I'll drop some links to these. This is a nice thing about colors. It's kind of hidden because the colors, the RGBs and the hex, I can't get the web to match, but I don't know why. I've got some custom functions that are okay. Presentation coming up. Michigan is a great user group. People, drop on by. They always have a good show. They put on a good show. I would encourage people to go to that. But anyway, I got some more. I'll be tweeting things out, Tony White Live on Twitter, and basically that's the big social media right now. Not much on Facebook. But there you go. So ding, ding, ding. I'm happy to stop there. And questions, or if you guys want to talk about upcoming stuff, or I'm happy with a number of things that we got through.
Well, one thing I'm curious about is how you use these infographics are great, but how do you refer to them? Like what's a situation you're in that you would like use them as a reference, or just kind of study them a little bit, and when you're getting ready to do something? How do you use these?
It's a good question. A lot of times we'd have a customer, and maybe we're doing some pair programming on scripting, and we would like, here's the coding convention that we're using. Let me pick a better example. There might be a topic. This came up actually with someone that we're working with, where relatively new to the platform, someone with a comp sci background, a lot of skill, said, hey, I did some lookups. And I said, lookups? The cool kids are doing auto enter calculations. So I would send this. And this would be like my way of saying, like if we're pair programming with someone and they hit a topic, like, I want to use a popover. I'm like, here's the jumpstart on popovers. We'll just send them the popover thing. And it's everything they need to know. And, if we're working with them, it's like, hey, this is scruffy. This one, maybe this is scruffy, but someone said to me earlier yesterday, hey, I used lookups. And I was like, no, don't do that. And this is an infographic that makes the case that auto enter calculations are better than lookups because you can lock them and you can do things because you pick up the calculation entry. So that's one example. We might have someone with user interface where we just basically we're working with people, and we could have incredibly long conversations over and over about the same topics. But sometimes, or someone says, I can't get the file paths to work, and as someone we work with a lot, we might say, here, just read this and let me know if you have any questions. So yeah, most of these we have queued up in our FileMaker correspondence generation system, so I can go click, 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 and have it out the door in about a minute. And it's situational. It'll depend on the topic that we're talking about. So that's how we use them. We also hand them out at DevCon to say hello to people sometimes.
Some year.
Yeah, soon. And I'm going to go back. I'm just checking the chat, and just to see I missed any questions. Other than that, thank you all. It's always fun. You guys put on a good show. Oh, and then someone's asking about. Oh yeah, what are we doing? Custom functions. Oh, the Michigan. And Michigan is doing a joint event with a bunch of other groups. Could be Minnesota. Sometimes they'll do a joint event. Could be Wisconsin. Sometimes they're doing combo. In the Midwest, they often pool the people. So it's a bunch of user groups. It's in any case, I believe it's Tuesday, from memory. I hope that's true. Anyway, and everyone should know about that meeting because everyone should have joined every user group in the country and in the world. And then you'll know everything. You'll get an email. And you'll bump up the numbers.
Tony, just wanted to thank you again very much for your presentation today. Each one of these could be like a Claris Engage presentation on its own. It's just intense. It's great to see these visually. It's great to have your commentary. Thank you for continually, updating them whenever you can, even the scruffy ones. It's just really great content. Appreciate all your time also tonight and sharing your insights with everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you, Vince. I appreciate it. I do want to say I'm glad we got through the ones that we did. I'm glad that we didn't get through all of the ones that I had to show because we are planning and we're Vince. We got Vince and some other people and New Yorkers. We are going to have a meeting of the New York group. I actually got a call this week. When are we going to have a meeting? And so give me a little time to kind of get my feet on the ground here. We are going to have a meeting. Stay tuned. And I expect if they will allow me to present, I'm going to cover some more infographics that we didn't cover here today. That's why I'm glad we didn't cover them all because now I got content for the New York meeting.
Hey, Tony, a suggestion for you would be to, instead of, covering all of them, maybe you cover one infographic in every one of your meetings. That way, at least you cover kind of a little bit of a prep to the meeting, and you can spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes on one infographic every meeting.
Maybe related to the topic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would be awesome.
Well, I have done at the meetings at the New York meeting where we've never ever done a virtual meeting. Although I have a Zoom paid account, so I'm going to probably do the logistics for it. If you come to the New York, by the way, let's say next year, for lack of a better idea, let's say next year, if you're passing through town, stop on by. We're a friendly bunch of New Yorkers. We go out to dinner later. For the next meeting, near term, we're going to be virtual. And yeah, no, it's some of these could do a massive deep dive. I'm just, I was happy just to kind of put a lot of stuff out there. And once again, thank you for putting on the show, doing the recording, and I will follow up with a, the thing that I did last time, the page with the timestamp links, and hopefully, I would say. We're all meeting together and, there's a huge, massive platform and I'm glad other people are doing other things because there's more to cover than I can do. That's for sure.
Thank you, Tony.
So you guys have another meeting coming up? What's the next meeting going to be? Or is it too soon?
We're waiting for a response from somebody. We got an initial response. We're waiting for another.
It'll be awesome though, right?
Yeah.
These are awesome. There was a question Lars about how to build a plugin. I will. I don't know if anybody is easily accessible to find the link to the plugin SDK, but I don't have that easily accessible right now. But otherwise, just do a search on the community for plugin SDK, and that's where you should get started.